another housing bubble. I hear the word bubble used so often these days, like at least 10 times a day. In every newscast that you turn on, watch your 6:30 news at night, every news channel has a segment every single night now about the housing bubble and the lack of affordability, and people can't buy homes and all of these things. And of course, they like to report the bad news. So what we really need to look at, though, instead of interviewing this person or that person, is look at some data. So today I want to show you some data. All right, I'm Nancy Deichman. I've been in real estate since 1987. I've seen a lot. I see a little bit about what's happening today, more than most, and I just want to share some national data with you today so that you will understand, instead of just look at those horror stories about housing right now. And I guess maybe that's what we should title this video, is horror stories about housing, because in addition to the horror stories, there's some very good news here. So let's look at a couple of charts. One chart that I'd like to show you right now is the Federal Housing Finance Agency chart. So this is a chart of the United States and how pricing is significantly increasing across the United States. Overall, it goes from 10 to 15% year over year as of the first quarter of 2021. If you look at Florida, you can see how much appreciation we've had here. But if you look at the whole nation as a whole, it's 12.6%, which is what the experts call 13% appreciation, significant price increasing across the nation. So you can call it appreciation or price increasing. But that's what's happening now according to this chart. So is this a bubble? The reason I don't think it's a bubble is because of who's buying these homes and why they're buying these homes. So we need to look at that. Who's buying these homes? Well, number one, large and small investors are buying these homes and paying cash for them. What would make that slow down a little bit is if those homes don't get rented as quickly as they are now, or if the pricing of those homes goes up so far that the amount of rent those people can collect, it doesn't make any sense anymore. And sometimes, to me, it doesn't make sense now. But that would slow this bubble down. But that is one chart you can look at to see how much it's affected our market in the last 12 months. Okay, another chart that we need to look at is the change in inventory chart. So let's look at this chart for a minute. And the change in inventory shows that across the nation, there's a 50.9% reduction in inventory over last year. So the reduction in inventory means there's still as many buyers who need homes, but there's not enough homes to go around. And it doesn't mean that we're listing any less. We're actually listing more homes, but the demand is so high that they're getting sucked up off the market very quickly. And a lot of times, the people who want to buy them to live in them are still getting beat out by the investors. So if the investors stop buying as much because they're putting their homes on the market for rent and they're not renting as quickly or for as much money, these people are going to be able to buy homes. So that's going to level the playing field a little bit. Okay. So that chart shows that Florida is actually down 62.2% in inventory, and I would say in our area, it's down even more than that. Our area looks like it's down over 75% in the inventory, which we would consider a normal market. So what are these two charts? What's the significance of these two charts for you? Well, depending on what state you're in, you're seeing that you're having great appreciation. You're seeing that there's a lack of inventory. So if you're an owner, that could be very good news if you want to sell your property now and cash out. Okay, very simple for owners. The only unsimple thing is, or the complicated thing is, if you're living in that home, you're going to have to move to have when you sell that home. And where are you going to go? If you're scaling down, it's going to be good economically for you. If you're scaling up, not so much. Most sellers are negotiating time, or a lot of sellers, I won't say most, but a lot of sellers are negotiating time after the closing for free from the buyers right now. So you're in a very good position. You can sell your house and stay in it for a few months while you look for another one. But it's still a little scary. So what if you're a buyer in this market? We're experiencing what the industry is now calling buyer fatigue. And I will say it also is realtor fatigue, who are working with buyers trying to find the dream home for them. And realtors are working harder than ever trying to find homes for their buyers. I've never seen it this tough. So if you're a buyer, you might be questioning your decision right now to buy. Should I just keep renting? Should I not move? Should I buy? I think you should still buy based on the forecasting that's out there, because the appreciation is supposed to continue according to the forecasters over 8% this year. So that's another forecast that's out there that's saying, yes, if I can get a home, I should buy now. The other thing is the lowest interest rates in history. And I'm going to show you some charts in a minute. They're the affordability factor for homes today versus if you would have bought years ago. The affordability factor is actually at an all-time low also. People used to have to pay 25% of their income. That was the norm in order to purchase a home. That 25% of their income was going towards that home every month to pay the monthly payment. Right now, we're around 20.6% or some number in there below 21%. And even with things changing throughout the next year, they're only expected to go to 21%. So your affordability factor is still there, and it's not because of the pricing of the houses, it's because of the interest rate. So if you're getting a mortgage, if you're a buyer getting a mortgage, then yes, you still have an affordability factor weighing in your favor. And that's a fixed rate for 30 years, folks. Now, when I sold real estate a while back, people stayed in their home an average of 4.6 years. They now stay in their home an average of 10 years. So you have 10 years of living in that home when your interest rate, your payment's not going to go up other than tax increases, which is inevitable. So, but your monthly payment on your interest and mortgage is not going up for the length of time you stay in your home. Few people will stay in there 30 years because of that factor. That might even make our housing market even more of a shortage. So that's what's going on now for buyers and sellers. So let's back up a minute and figure out what caused this phenomena that we're living in now with the shortage of houses and everybody wanting to buy a house and investors wanting to buy houses and all of this things that are going crazy in this market now, because the market is crazy. It is crazier than I've ever seen. So what caused it? Millennials were born in the 80s, right? Well, they're of the home buying age. Lots of experts says millennials don't want to buy homes. Millennials want to buy homes. They are buying homes. They're one of the largest segments of our market buying homes right now. So the experts were once again wrong about that. Millennials want to buy homes, especially with a 3% interest rate or less. Now, why would millennials want to buy homes versus the experts thinking they wouldn't? Probably because if they're paying rent, they're paying way more in rent than they would be paying if they bought a mortgage in most cases, or bought a house with a low interest mortgage in most cases. So it's actually more economical, and they can build wealth in the equity of their home at the same time. They're actually buying an investment, even though they're living in it. Traditionally, experts don't call that an investment because you are living in the home. But in a way, it is an investment. And in a way, that's where most people gain most of their wealth, is in the equity of their home. So if the market continues to increase, which we do expect it to do for some time until the supply and demand equalize, which is going to take some time because it's taking longer to build homes now, and we have a huge shortage to satisfy of people who want to buy homes. So it's going to take a while. As long as the interest rates are in our favor, we're going to be in good shape for quite a while to come. So yes, I would recommend that you buy. If you want to sell, depending on the reason you want to sell, I think it's a good time to sell. So because you're going to get large equity out of your home. Why do I think there's not going to be a lot of foreclosures? Because people are going to have equity in their home. People had to qualify to buy those homes. The bubble that we had before was a true bubble. People didn't have to qualify to buy. Anybody could buy, and anybody and everybody was buying, and speculative building was going crazy. It was way worse than it is now. So there were not people to move into those rooftops, and we crashed and burned. No non-qualifying mortgages is the biggest reason, and the fury of frenzy where people were feeding on that. We don't have a feeding frenzy for that right now. You have to qualify if you're a buyer to buy a mortgage. And if you're self-employed, it's difficult. So it's hard to qualify for a mortgage. So that's a good thing in a way that people can actually afford those payments. Therefore, they're not as likely to get foreclosed on. The interest rate is good. They don't want to give up that interest rate. They're going to make that house payment. The third reason is it's cheaper for them to stay there and live there than it is to sell that house and rent something. So, and have to rent something because they lost their home. I think people value their homes more than they ever have. I know I'm not living in my dream home, but I value my own more than I ever have. So I think people have the same sentiment because, and COVID helped create that. So that's where we are right now of why this is not a bubble. It's the need for housing. Our population increase, our population coming of age. People in Florida, we have a double whammy because people in other states can now work out of their home and they want to live in Florida in this climate that we have. So we actually had, that's why our shortage of inventory is even higher than it is across some parts of the country. The places people are migrating to, we have tremendous migration, faster migration than ever to Florida. So it helps us as realtors and it hurts us as home buyers and realtors who are trying to help buyers find homes. But keep looking and keep working on it. If you're a buyer, keep working on it with your realtor. I know you're familiar if you've been trying to buy a home with escalation clauses. One recommendation we could make is change your escalation clause to a more lucrative escalation clause for the seller. Most people are coming in saying, I'll pay $1,000 higher than the next person. Go $2,000, go $5,000 higher, depending on the price of the home and what you can afford. That should help you. And there's other ways that your realtor can help you and advise you. Put a larger escrow deposit. Put a shorter inspection time. Some people are putting no inspection time. Let the seller stay after closing if you're a buyer. You're in 2 months or 3 months, let that seller stay in there a little longer. Make it comfortable for them. That has actually closed deals for agents in our company. That one thing that allows the seller to stay there longer has made a big difference in some of our contracts being accepted. Another thing that has caused the shortage of inventory is after the last bubble and crash, which was a true bubble, after that crash, nobody was building homes because there weren't people to move into them. So for the longest period of time, builders were pretty much out of business. And in an area where you can build homes, it got very quiet and the economy really changed for a long time. So over the last 3 years, builders have started building again, but they cannot possibly keep up with the increase in demand that is happening now. That's why houses are taking longer to build. The shortages, the demand for housing and the demand for new construction and COVID caused lumber shortages, shingle shortages, window shortages, everything. Some people have not gone back to work yet, and we have employment shortages that happened because of COVID. So we're having that. So what would change, in ending, what would change our market now? What would change this demand into not so much of a demand? One would be buyer fatigue and too many buyers give up, but that's not going to have a huge difference. Another one is the affordability of the homes. Another thing is the interest rates going up, which the experts don't see that until at least the end of 2022, but we live in a day that we don't know what's going to happen next. So, and finally, if something unexpected that no one can predict happens, and what would that look like? Well, we just experienced COVID. That was one thing. So it did actually, even though we had banner years last year, it did slow our market down because people were afraid to go out and look at homes. People were afraid to put their homes on the market. It did tamper this frenzy. But now it's more of a frenzy than ever. If we had a national disaster or a national natural disaster or a national unnatural disaster, that is going to change things and delay things even longer. Hopefully we don't, but you don't know what tomorrow brings. So that's the only thing that I can see right now that would slow down the demand for housing, is disasters, hurricanes, large hurricanes, um, another type of COVID, you name it. Those kinds of things are going to affect our economy, going to affect people's ability to buy a home because they won't be able to qualify. If we have something like that, they're going to be out of work for a while. Those are the only things. Hopefully, we're in good shape and that's not going to happen. So we're going to continue on fighting and hoping that the buyers can find homes that they can afford. The interest rate, or the employment rate in our area right now in our county is like 5.4%. It was over 12% last year. So we see the recovery from COVID helping other parts of the economy also. That is also going to keep our real estate market going for some time. No bubble here. Housing demand, absolutely. Is that a bubble that's going to pop? I don't see a pop. Somewhere along the line, we're going to get some, if with all things being normal, we're going to get some equalization, some evening out, some longer days on market, some higher supply. A normal market's considered a 6-month supply of homes. 6 months is not going to happen anytime soon. Right now, we're at 30 days. They say 3 months, but it's 30 days. So right now, people just need to decide, if I'm going to buy a home, I might buy a home that's not my dream home, but I do want to get in one. Maybe I can make it my dream home. That would be a good solution. But we're going to keep working for you. We're going to keep finding people that want to sell. That's what we do as realtors. We find people that want to sell and we match them up with people that want to buy. And we're going to continue to do this for you. So we are in for the long haul. Call us if you need us. Let us know how we can help you. And I hope you've enjoyed this video.